Hey everyone, and welcome to the Trekyards Mission Briefing, your weekly Wednesday dose of Star Trek goodness, taking a look at any big, small, micro, escape pod-sized, or bigger, galaxy-sized, have we done galaxy-sized? Ship of the Star Trek universe, theorise, speculate, first look, and then you guys work with us in the comments below to say what you know, what you don't know, where doesn't make sense, but what you do know, and we'll put it together for the full episode that you love on Saturdays. So Stuart, hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty well. What are we doing today, Stuart?
An odd one for sure, but a very important one in Star Trek mythos. This one is kind of shrouded in mystery as well as a cloud. Ha!
He's on it. He's on the joke train today.
But
I hope there's jokes all throughout the show, because that was top quality, this Stuart.
But we're going to get to the heart of the matter and probe the question as to what exactly we're talking about today, and that would be Voyager, or as it's otherwise known, Voyager 6.
Voyager 6.
From Star Trek The Motion Picture.
Voyager 6 plus Alien.
Yes. Yes.
First picture. Okay. Voyager, Star Trek Motion Picture, not the best movie, but a Star Trek movie through and through. You know?
Absolutely.
Okay, so do you remember, as we always do you remember seeing this in cinema for the first time? Do you remember seeing Voyager? Give me all that good stuff now, Stuart.
Well, I saw it on VHS at home years later, I'm sure. But, yeah, I remember seeing it for the first time and wondering what the hell it was, because it did not look like a ship to me. It looked very odd, and then they went inside and flew through a bunch of things, and I'm like, wow, this is a damn big ship.
Yeah.
Apparently it's not all ship, though. It's the projection above the ship and stuff. But we'll get into that in a minute. The overall vibe originally was just, this is really weird, and it's powerful. It destroys 3 Klingon cruisers, almost destroys the Enterprise. But yeah, odd ship, odd design.
And there's a lot. We've got a lot of pictures in here for a lot of different facets of this design. So we'll talk about a lot of different things. But yeah, for me, as I've said in multiple shows, you know, I've seen Star Trek since I was 3, and since I was 3, most of Star Trek was already out. You know, at least a large portion of it. So I was brought up with it in different orders and different whatever. So I have no first memory, but I do remember thinking the effect was gorgeous. I mean, that cloud is a wonderful. It's not just a cloud. It's got its own unique style and its own unique vibe, and it's a very cool effect. But I remember thinking as a kid, I did not understand how everything was linked. I couldn't visualize what was inside.
Yeah.
And I definitely thought the outside was a part of the ship, and the whole thing was like it didn't follow on that it was that big. I thought it was smaller than it was asserted to be, but everything inside the cloud was a ship and there's just pieces and things around. But some of those scale shots, which we'll see a little later on, were, I mean, it changes the perspective, especially because we've only seen 3 seasons of TOS and 2 of animated. I mean, there's something about how big that is that just. I know we've got big ships. You know, that becomes the bigger, baddier ship is a staple later on. You know, Scimitar, Vengeance, and whatnot. But this was like another level beyond the other level. You know, so I was always very impressed by that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, it was very hard as a kid to kind of wrap your head around what the ship looked like and what why it was so big, and yeah, I remember thinking the same thing. So,
but Stuart,
that's my name.
There is concept art of the external part of the ship. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
And
obviously.
Next.
Go. Wow. Yeah, I've seen this a few times. Yep. This is indeed very odd looking, but that's good. It's very alien. And as I've always kind of said about this picture, it has a very, like, sea creature type of feel, like a deep sea creature, squid of some kind.
Absolutely.
Very odd, so.
Yeah, it's wonderfully organic, but also it does feel like a bit like the whale probe. Like, if this went with the whale probe as as the space whale creature, I think you totally buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This would make actually a better whale probe than what they used.
Yeah. But although the scale is, I mean, well, okay, to be fair, I was about to say the scale's off, although you can see the bottom right, I guess, fin shadowing the entire planet. So it's just so big and so far away, it looks close, which is a cool scale. That isn't a good indication. But this never made an impression, although I do remember seeing it in one of the mods, and I thought, well, that's an odd fan model. Why the hell would you invent that as the middle? But then we saw it in the director's cut sort of. They made it in CG and then showed some bits, which was really awesome. Cleaned some of those little gaps, and then we'll talk about Star Trek Online later. We see it in full glory, but this it's an odd one, and I wonder what on earth they were thinking. Like, what was the inspiration? Where do you get from? It's a Voyager probe that's been reprogrammed by robots to this.
That's a very good question, and I don't know the answer to it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the thought process there because, like I said, this is a very cool design, very alien looking, and perfect for the first full length movie on a big screen.
And yet we didn't get to see it though. This was never represented, which is a big shame. But it's great that people have subsequently included it in things. But yeah, very, very cool. Although I do approve, having the blue, the cloud. The cloud is what made it ultra interesting, and then it would have been, I think, anticlimactic, especially given the technology of the time. If they'd made this as a physical miniature, you see Earth, and this just comes slow towards Earth. It's like, oh, it's a weird ship thing.
It looks very menacing. So I mean, they could have done it if they did it properly. It would look very, very scary. But yeah, I like the mystery that shrouds it, as so to speak, is with the cloud around it. So
it's like it works because we never see it. It's like it's the Jaws of the spaceship.
I was just gonna say it's like Jaws.
Yeah,
you never see it, or Bruce as they called him. Cool. Well, let's go to the next picture. This is the shot of it on tactical. So this is basically just the different layers of cloud that surround the ship. Although I don't think that Enterprise is to scale.
Well, isn't there a whole scaling consistency issue? And I think the next picture will go towards that as well. I mean, yeah, this is certainly not to scale. But if we go straight to the next picture, though, and I know we've talked about this between ourselves, what is the question of scale with this? Because
all right, so yeah, we know that as the probe actually approaches Earth, it gets smaller. It was
the cloud
measured. Yeah, the cloud around it starts to shrink. So it is much bigger on its approach to the solar system, and it actually, at one point, it measures 12 AUs in diameter.
Is in miles, because miles is 12 AUs. Astronomical units is 1.115 e plus 9 miles. Or
that's pretty big.
It's pretty big.
Our solar system, for like the encompassing solar system, is 30 AUs in diameter, and then for the Kepler belt and like the Oort cloud, which surrounds the solar system, it goes up to 50 AUs.
Yeah, it kind of just disperses for a very, very long way until it's just nothing. So
yeah, so this thing is 12 AUs in diameter, so it's pretty big. When it gets measured, I mean, it is reducing in size at that point.
So you're saying it's literally a solar system-sized cloud moving through the galaxy. So when it hits, if it was still as big, when it hits, when it gets to Earth, which it can't do because when the outer edge gets to Earth, it's still at Pluto, beyond Pluto, and the ship still has to move. So therefore, the Earth will actually be in the cloud for like days or hours. So it has to shrink, obviously. That's a pretty big. Can you even fathom that? I mean, the power generation to create that is.
Yeah, it sounds like it was just sweeping the universe or the galaxy as it moved, just pulling things with it, which is kind of scary, actually.
But didn't they change it in the director's cut to make it smaller? I think that's the controversy. They descale it because obviously that was such a ludicrous figure. I think it's much, 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 much smaller now.
I'm not sure. I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, I think that's all the controversy I was trying to leap you into, Stuart.
Oh, well, there you go.
But in this scale chart, obviously, it does not represent that, and they're not at Earth yet, so this is certainly a scaled-down version.
Yeah.
But again, even this size is, 30 Enterprise-E's in length. I mean, this is still a ginormous cloud at this scale.
Well, yeah, going back to scale, like size for a second, I'm talking about within our solar system, it destroyed those Klingon ships while in the Klingon sector, coming through that. I mean, that's a sector, that's not a solar system. So I assume it started to shrink, like coming up to, our solar system, like before it got here. And it obviously took out some other stuff before that. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if they changed it for the director's cut. If they did, let us know in the comments because I'd like to know.
Yeah, they retconned that.
Well,
But the next picture is a fan scale chart, and we do know some fan scale charts tend to be off a little bit in different universes and such. And this is showing the actual internal Voyager ship. Not necessarily sure where they got this from per se. I mean, but hopefully somewhere reliable. So what do you think? It says 98 kilometers is the Voyager ship itself. What do you think?
I mean, it's menacing. It's more menacing than the whale probe.
A little bit.
But I would assume it would be bigger than that personally. I don't know. I see something that can destroy a planet kind of thing, and that I'm sure it could. But
yeah, but then there's Indie Weapon, which is that big in comparison to the house. I mean, scaling wise, it's relative. I think that's the biggest. I mean, look at the bottom of the thing. You've got the Narada, which is as big as every ship in the fleet combined. You could fit you could fit an empire in that in terms of fleet. This thing is bigger than anything else in the Trek universe. I mean, the whale probe is also, again, look at where we can build technology. You've got the two different iterations of space dock in different the Earth one and the other planet one, which is the biggest thing for our fleet. Then whale probe, and then a whole fifth bigger, and that's a hell of a ship. I mean, and to think Voyager 6 is the size of a person.
So tiny, yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah. When you look at it that way, that is kind of impressive, actually.
I mean, if they had decks, that'd be what, like 30,000 decks.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I have no problem with the sizing scale. I like this scale chart. How accurate it is, we don't really know, but it's very interesting to compare it to other things. So
obviously, a lot of us for Trek stuff, we talk about the canon for CG scale and all the other fleet yard stuff we do, but we have limits, obviously, and a lot of these stuff either they didn't design scale per se, or it's so we've got to go with fan charts for some stuff. So there you go.
Cool. Well, let's go on to the next picture. And this is a shot, again, from the exterior of the cloud. As the Enterprise approaches, it gets attacked by some high-energy plasma bolts, I believe. Highly energized plasma, something like that. Which almost destroy the Enterprise until they start transmitting the lingua code. So, I don't know. I guess the Enterprise's shields are more powerful than the Klingon battle cruisers. It's kind of odd. I mean, the Klingon battlecruiser's one hit, gone.
Well, it's also the hero effect. But if we go straight to the next picture, we see. I mean, it's a wonderful effect. It's retro yet still advanced looking. It's that kind of interesting mix. Now, there's a couple of things that come to mind with this. First of all, obviously, if this ship is the size of, as we just said, that's weapons should be beyond our compare. But yeah, you're right. A single, relatively small weapon. Considering the size of the thing, it's like the size of a little pill to a house. You're throwing a pill at somebody and they demolecularize into nothing in less than 10 seconds?
Yeah, pretty much.
What does that? I mean, that's
yeah, and you got to wonder too, what exactly is this weapon? Because, like you said, demolecularize, but it actually looks like it's digitizing it. And originally, in the original script, it does do that. It kind of downloads the ships, and then after, when it gets destroyed, in the original screenplay and storyboards, the ships get reintegrated and attack the Enterprise, and the Enterprise has to saucer separate. It's a whole thing.
Now that's really interesting, really interesting. But you keep going because you're going to say something else.
But that would make me wonder, if that's the case, why didn't everything that it's destroyed in its whole course of its existence just all of a sudden show up in Earth's orbit when it got destroyed? Like all these alien ships and whatever. Because apparently the original script had these 3 Klingon ships rematerialize, attack the Enterprise, they had a warp core breach, they had to saucer separate, and that's how the movie was going to end. Would have been cool to see. I love the storyboards for seeing the refit saucer separate.
Beautiful,
but I think it raises more questions than it answers, and I'm glad they kind of took it out.
Well, you've thrown a lot of stuff out there. I think we need to.
Sorry.
I think we need to decompress that. First, you said okay. If the original script was written that they remolecularized at the end, that implies that they the whole time thought it was a, I guess, reverse transporter effect. It wasn't a weapon because they come back at the end. So you've got to, although in the context of the film we only see it in one way, you still got to understand that if that was the original idea, then it's worth considering that. And then you mentioned obviously when they're in Voyager, I believe we see some pictures of this later, which we can go back to. All these planets and stuff are there.
Yes.
Well, are they demolecularized planets? Are they holograms? Are they whatever? And then the real question is if this. So, I'm assuming the ship can do basically anything anyway, but the idea of sending a weapon that could. I mean, is it then just a transporter? Or is it then just going in? Maybe it's just transporting it inside to a stasis field or something, because you've seen things being beamed very quickly, so that needs less. Or you say digitize, maybe it's the equivalent of transporting, but instead of transporting it physically, it's keeping it in the pattern buffers of Voyager.
I see it more as like downloading the physical information into like a digitized form. So it's like downloading from your computer. And then just storing it until needed kind of thing.
So not murder, just control, write, save as.
Exactly. Yes.
Obviously, they didn't appear at the end, so it is still murder. But although to be fair, they could have reappeared in their own zone. When it became God ship, everything could have just boop 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 boop.
Or they could have reappeared, and then when Voyager exploded, they got destroyed in the explosion. And the Enterprise was just far enough away to. I don't know.
So, but I mean, that's a wonderful. Again, this film actually has lots of layers to it that you can sort of start breaking down, and if it's digitizing everything. Well, then the question is, obviously they didn't mean this at the time, but does that not potentially reinforce the Borg idea? Because in the video game Star Trek Legacy, there's a wonderful bonus cutscene where they show that Voyager came through and it got to this alien planet. They did what they did to it, fixed it up, sent it on its way, and as it went, it was trying to find its creator, but in the process, it was still reliant on its initial programming to learn things. Very simple programming. So it started getting things, and because it wanted to expand its horizon of learning, it would create these drone creatures that could go out and learn more and get more information. So if this, and they then evolved over eons, time, whatever, into the Borg as we know them, is the fact that they're trying to digitize or maybe even assimilate in a grander way, taking all the information into themselves. Then are they not learning? Is not Voyager learning by assimilation through this journey? What do you think?
It's very interesting, actually. There's been many Borg theories thrown out about Voyager, but I haven't heard that one where Voyager created the drones that went out.
Well, that's in Legacy. You should watch it.
Legacy. Well, I have played Legacy, but
it's a bonus cutscene, so it's like a bonus feature.
There you go.
Yeah,
gotcha. I really like that. The other one is that it crashed on the Borg planet when the Borg were still in their infant stages. And not infant stages, but they weren't the Borg yet. They repaired it with that kind of technology, so it had the same thing, but they evolved on their own separately, because they repaired it and sent it on its way, and they kind of forgot about it. But there's interesting things like with that. But wouldn't you assume then, obviously, that their digitizing beam would be green? Like, come on, Samuel, that's a stretch. Why would Voyager have a blue digitizing beam? Obviously not Borg related.
But but as we saw in our Klingon episode, D7 vs. Gatinga, we know they recolor corrected the D7 from being green into being grey. So what if actually what we see is a slightly green weapon, but it's been color corrected because of those dumb filmmakers back into blue?
Yeah, blue looked better on the big screen, and they ruined it all. It was supposed to tie in with what happened 30 years later in TNG. Obviously. No. But I think it's more of a digitizing, like, saving information kind of thing. It's not really a weapon, per se. I mean, even Ilea, even the probe that shows up on the bridge that takes Ilea away, she gets digitized, too.
Yeah, Voyager's a weird one, because when you're so powerful and so big, and nothing can even halt your progress. They can't even get through the border patrol because they digitize you. You know what I mean? Only Enterprise did. At that point, that is the idea of having, you know, violence, having destruction. It should be so beyond them. It's on the single-minded purpose to get someplace, to meet Creator, to meet their God in equivalency. So digitizing this little nothing is nothing. I mean, maybe it's the equivalent, you know, of us going out, say, on a walk somewhere in a forest, taking a picture of a ladybug. It's just that obviously for the context of this big ship, it needs a 3D complete whatever. We want to capture memories. If it's capturing things but doing it physically, now it's not malicious. It's just, I mean, if it's meant to be 12 AUs big, this one ship is literally nothing to it. And a person within inside it is also nothing. So the scale, you know, it's like Q. Q can do whatever. So lonely people don't really matter to him. So digitizing a crew of 300. Well, hey, I learned how to make gach better. I don't know. The one captain knew the secret sauce to make gach even better. Now Vija knows.
There you go. Yeah, that's funny that you're talking about that, because I was thinking when the one ship was flying away, the Klingon ship, and firing the torpedoes, Vidra's like, I already got these ships. Hey, look, there's another one. Oh, look, you're sending me more things. Look, a photon torpedo, thanks. Oh, another one. Awesome. There, I'm going to take you too. It's like you're teaching me things.
Yeah. But they didn't fight anyone to have green torpedoes. They didn't learn green. But I mean, does that change the context of the movie a bit? Whereas the first scene was set up as destroyed 3 Klingon ships, disintegrated them. Does it change the context for you now?
Yeah, a little. It's like Spock says. It's an infant. It's learning. It's trying to find answers, and what better way to do that than to sample things, and because it's like a baby, like you said, an infant. They grab things. They got to put things in their mouths. Experiment with
green lightning in their mouths. Yeah.
With the environment around them. Exactly. But yeah, so it does. It turns it from a destructive force into a destructive force that doesn't know it's destructive. It's just learning. And kids are like that. They wander around your house and break shit because they're wondering what it is, and they don't mean to do it. They're just exploring. So it's interesting. That's it, guys. Tune in for the next part, which is next week.
Next week? So I have to wait a whole week for next part? Oh.
You do indeed.
But
we'll see you then.
Bye. See you then. Bye.